Desperate landlords, told to take whatever they can get. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from Domain, discussing Melbourne rents and short-term listing hosts return properties to the rental market, and of course putting a downward pressure on prices. Now this is something we've talked about in the past, just the flood of the Airbnbs hitting the long-term rental market. I was talking to a broker mate up here in Brisbane, how when he was looking for a place, he was moving back from Sydney up to Brisbane, and there were all these places for rent with fully furnished, and then the longer he looked, it was furnished or not, your choice, and then unfurnished. He saw a steady change in the market as these properties were slowly getting onto the market, because often you've got your own furniture. You don't want to bother with fully furnished. And of course, that's going to put a glut on the market for some of these properties. It's going to be interesting because the RBA are talking about 30% house price rises. First home buyers are flooding the market. What's going to happen to the apartments, everyone? A glut of vacant inner-city apartments, once used as short-term accommodation, has helped push Melbourne rental prices to a 4-year low, with new figures showing more than half the short-stay listings in the CBD were withdrawn in the last year. And city agents are warning owners to take any tenant they can get now rather than hoping for a pickup in demand for short-stay letting. There you have it. And we're getting mixed messages. Certain parts of the country, certain parts of the market are doing a lot better. Look at the sunny coast, look at some of the regional areas where now in-city apartments being flooded with short-stay stuff. How many people you think have invested in these things, are paying interest only and hoping for capital growth? Do you hope for capital growth in an apartment? I was always told you can't really expect it because you're competing with everyone in the building for renters and for sales. Melbourne apartment rents are back at 2016 levels after the pandemic prompted a rise in unemployment, a dearth of international students and tourists, and an influx of empty holiday accommodation into the long-term rental market. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year with international students if they return, if they try to turn the tap on. Or if, with the Aussie dollar compared to the US dollar, maybe the US is going to be more appealing for people who would rather go to Australia, or who would rather go to the States than Australia. A jump in supply coincided with a drop in demand, with available Melbourne CBD vacation rentals dropping from 3,401 in December 2019 to just 1,541 a year later, according to data from the short-term rental analytics firm AirDNA. As many owners offered empty units for long-term lease, residential rents in the CBD fell by 27.3% in the year to December to a median $400 per week on Domain data. Residential vacancy rates in inner-city Melbourne spiked to 14.1% in December, up from 3.1% a year earlier, the highest rate in the country. Charter Keck Kramer director Angie Zigomanis said short-term accommodation added back into the rental market exacerbated the downward pressure on rents in inner-city areas. The issues would have been there anyway. The short-term has just exacerbated them and justified a bigger reduction in rents than otherwise would have occurred, he said. The rentals hardest hit by price drop were inner-city properties, which were close to tourist attractions, as well as tenants' employment and universities. The need for proximity to these amenities evaporated overnight, reducing demand according to Mr. Zigomanis. Even if they were on the market, there will be bigger vacancy rates because there's fewer students, there's less employed people who work at the local cafes, retail, they've been put out of work, as well as there's still a reasonable supply of apartments being delivered to the market. There you go, look at this 16% year-on-year change. Oh, look at these rents. They're $395, $360, $355 Northwest. These are looking reasonable, everyone, to me. Melbourne agent Josie Garcia of Holland & Williams said his agency had seen many short-term listings return to the longer-term market during the pandemic. We had quite a few apartments in a city block leased before I started at the agency. We were approached by a short-stay hotel operation. They managed 5 apartments in the building at the time, and when COVID started, they returned them all back to the market. We've released most of them except one, he said. Some pockets of the city were more affected by the phenomenon than others, such as buildings on Flinders Street. One building in particular had 40 to 45 vacancies for lease, and you can see there it comes from the short-term leasing market, he said. 45 in one building. One building! Mr. Garcia warned landlords, hoping of a resurgence in short-term rental demand in 2021, that they'd likely be better off taking what they could get on the long-term rental market now. I'd say the moment you can't rely on short-term, he said. I'd definitely tell landlords to take whatever you can take right now rather than wait. Pawan Sinha runs a short-term rental business and has been forced to slash the number of properties he manages from 112 to 60 in less than a year. He said demand for short-term stays has fallen dramatically during COVID-19 in the CBD and surrounding inner-city suburbs, popular with tourists and business travelers. I had 112 apartments before COVID started that I was using for short stay. Once the operations in a South Yarra building, we had to permanently shut down, said Mr. Sinha, who is also a Victorian director of the Australian Short-Term Rental Association. The irony is that most of those apartments are still available for lease. Releasing them to the rental market is not helping landlords, he added. Mr. Sinha leased out one apartment he owns, as well as others he has rented with permission to sublease as short-term rentals largely in South Yarra and St Kilda. Operators who had taken up residential leases were in a difficult situation, according to Mr. Sinha. While he had been able to secure some rent relief, he was unable to request rent reductions or grants available to residential tenants due to the property being used for commercial activity. As a result, he's been forced to return the keys for many properties to agencies and unresolved disputes over rent owing, resulting in 26 cases pending before VCAT, with the properties then being relisted on the long-term rental market. Derek Nolan, Airbnb's head of public policy in Australia, said that short-term leasing played only a small part in determining Australia's housing affordability. Housing affordability is an extremely complex issue with a range of contributing factors such as long-term population shifts, supply growth, and broader economic conditions. Short-term rentals generally comprise only a small percentage of the overall housing market, he said. Yeah, but if they all flood the market at one time, that's going to have an impact on housing affordability. You can't pretend it's not. We're seeing it here. We're seeing it here. Stacey, Corporate Affairs Director, Eckham Curry, said the platform had experienced strong growth last year, but many of its listings were located in regional locations. With our locations predominantly located in regional locations, Stacey did not witness many families withdrawing their holiday homes from the market, as this trend was largely confined to the capital cities, he said. So there we have it, everyone. Melbourne property, short-term property is starting to flood the market, and people are being told to take whatever they can get to keep tenants in there, to keep the money flowing in. You can't say it's not having an effect. You can't say it's not having an effect. And how will that play out in the value of these investment properties? Would you be buying an apartment now? Or would you wait a few years, try and catch the bottom? What do you reckon? As always, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. Support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.